70, being saved from a fiery furnace, would see that it is from the Jewish scribe Jonathan ben Uzziel, who mistook Ur for Or, and thought Ur of the Chaldees that Abraham came from for Ur, or a fire. Then a second reason I have some problems is because of the report that the texts are that the texts are exactly the way we have them from the time of Muhammad, and this seems to ignore historical records, Muslim historical records. First of all, in Suyuti, in Itqan, Volume 1, page 21, he indicates that there is no collected, arranged, and collated body of revelations at the death of Muhammad. Then when we read Ibn Abi Dawood in the Kitab Masahif, page 83, it indicates that many of the companions of the Prophet of God had their own reading of the Quran, but they died and their readings disappeared soon afterwards. Then again, as we read Ibn Abi Dawood in Kitab al-Masahif, page 23, portions were lost when some reciters died at the Battle of El-Yamama, and the text was only collated after Muhammad's death by a number of companions. Again, they would seem to be essentially consistent, but a large number of variant readings. No two texts are identical at that time. And this is not just reciting different dialects without the vowel points there. And so you have 19 years after the death of Muhammad, the third caliph that is Uthman, attempting a standardized text. Now he took the Codex of Zayd, which was closed and was kept in relative seclusion with Hafsa, but it was not well known at that time. But you had the codices of Abdullah ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b with considerable variance. Furthermore, after Uthman's death, al-Hallaj, the governor of Kufa, made 11 amendments and corrections. I have had...
Who was the last person you mentioned?
Al-Hallaj, governor of Kufa, made 11 amendments and corrections. Now, one of my students once just compared, and here is a volume by Arthur Jeffary, Materials for a History of the Text of the Quran. This is a book just on the variants now, I mean in Arabic. We're not, somebody said yesterday, produce another Quran. Well, this is at least producing the variants. And it is interesting that one of my students on his own compared 3 ancient manuscripts and came up with he compared a number of Christian manuscripts of the New Testament and some of the Muslim manuscripts. He compared the Sinaiticus Codex, an ancient one of the New Testament and a large part of the Old Testament, Codex Vaticanus and Codex Alexandrinus, and the Ephraimi rescript. He compared them in the New Testament for the number of verses omitted, the number added, and the number of texts affected. He compared the Codex Ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b with the text the way we have it today, and he found out that as for the number of verses in the New Testament as compared to the number of verses in the Quran, that the textual problem was even a slightly greater one for the Quran than it was for the New Testament, and I have the details of that here. Now, this is amazing, particularly when Uthman burned the manuscripts that tried to get them all burned, the ones that differed. So it is amazing to me that although Muslims have tried to get rid of the variants, there are still records of variants that are even slightly greater in the verses affected than you have for the New Testament manuscripts. And I could give a number of illustrations of how this has been suppressed. For example, in 1947, a student at the Egyptian University of Cairo wrote a thesis on textual criticism. And he never was given his degree. He was threatened with disciplinary action, and his advisor was dismissed from the university.
What is his name?
I do not have his name, but he is recorded. You can find the record of it in Arthur Jeffary, who was there.
Is Arthur Jeffary a Christian reference or a Muslim reference?
It is a Christian reference, but it is, you've got the,
Thank you.
You've got the record right here,
Okay,
so
thank you.
that I wouldn't make too much of a point of it. I think I have used my time here just to show that basically in the internal evidence and the textual evidence, I am not saying that the Quran is inaccurate. I'm just saying that their textual problems are as great as the Christian textual problems. And certainly the inconsistencies to me within the text are harder for me to accept than what you point out in the Bible.
Okay. Well, first of all, several remarks has been made about Rahbar who did not get his paper published, or the student, even if that's the story, suppose even the story is true, who could not get his degree. This has nothing to do really with the great effort of textual criticism that has already been done by the predecessor, and you did refer yourself to Jalaluddin al-Suyuti and others. In fact, that Jeffrey's book is based itself on a book written by Muslim, Abu Dawud al-Sijistani, the book of Kuttab al-Masahif. And that's why Dr. Draz criticized this contradiction sometimes is found in some non-Muslim writers about the Quran, when they said on one hand they say that the textual criticism of the Quran is in its infancy, yet in the very same books they write, you look at only the bibliography of the hundreds and hundreds of Muslim references about the sciences of the Quran and preservation, which seem to indicate a great deal of not a very straight scholarship in that sense. That's one thing. The other thing, when you talk about the internal evidence, I cannot respond to that because you haven't given me what exclamation or what exactly you're referring to in Surah 23. So until you get that, I'll reserve the answer to that. Thirdly, you said that it caused confusion to the Christian writer because it confuses Haman with Pharaoh or this. I think this is the same argument that one sister commented on before, that this is a very unfair thing to relate to the Quran because it has the presumption that the record in the Bible is absolutely accurate 100%. So anything in the Quran that is different from the Bible is not to be taken as accurate, not the other way around, which is a distinct, in fact, to the Muslim, it is a real thing, that the error is the other way around. Secondly, you refer to one instance when you say there is confusion between the sister of Aaron. This is one a very interesting question that you raised because since you said you know Arabic, you know that the expression in the Arabic language and in the Quran itself, when it says brother of or sister of, does not mean the blood brother. Just like the Bible, when it calls the Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, the daughter of Aaron, not the immediate daughter, but it means in the family. And Mary, mentioned in the Quran, of course, as coming from a priestly family, you are a sister of Aaron, not Aaron of Moses, the brother of Moses, sister of Aaron, like you see in Akhal Arab, or brother of Arabs, not necessarily referring to one particular, the children of Israel, not necessarily the immediate children. So this is really not a problem at all. Then there was a question that you say that in Surah 12, Ayah 49, it says that the source of fertility was the rain not the